The average life expectancy is 77, meaning midlife is 38.5. Scary thought, I know. Now, women, because we live longer than men in the USA, most of my viewers are the USA, is 81, meaning midlife is 40. Not much better, but it's earlier than most people think. So there's many things that have caused me to start thinking about the second half of my life. I've seen good and bad examples of aging, and I want to learn from both the good and the bad how I want to live the rest of my life. And sometimes some people could be a good example in this area of their life, but a bad example in that area of their life. Now, I got these examples from grandparents, parents, in-laws, aunts, uncles, friends of these people, and former and current even coworkers that I've seen that have aged. So I've gotten these examples from all different places, although when I give specific examples, I'm going to avoid saying who I'm talking about because I didn't ask anyone for permission. So just observation. So let's start with habits. It is time, if you're midlife, to get rid of, let's start with bad habits, to get rid of bad habits. We all have vices. We all have things we are doing that are not good for us. And it is time to get rid of those things. So we have smoking, drinking, drugs, gambling. And if you're sitting there saying, oh, good, I don't do any of those things. One addiction that is equally as bad to all of these, but doesn't have the stigma, is sugar. And if you're saying, well, that's not that bad, yes, you can get type 2 diabetes. I know someone who actually lost a toe from having type 2 diabetes. Now, type 1 you can't help, but type 2 is very preventable. Do what you need to do to get yourself to stop doing these things. And it is really hard. It's hard to go cold turkey. It's hard to do. Like if you were doing all of these things and you tried to stop doing all of it at once, that's hard. And it's hard to go cold turkey. So maybe start by cutting back. Like if you're drinking, cut from beer to wine, cut back to only on the weekends, cut from regular beer to light beer. I used to know someone who would joke all the time, oh, ha, 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 every time I want to lose weight, I just go from Bud to Bud Light. And yeah, it was a joke, but true. And at least it has less alcohol. Or if you're smoking, cut back to, I don't know, if you're smoking a pack a day, cut back to a half a pack. I actually know someone, and this is current, this is not in the past, who has recently been saying to me, I wish I stopped smoking years ago. This person has already stopped, but he's saying, I wish I stopped years ago. So you don't want to be in a situation where you're regretting life because you wish you stopped sooner. The first best time to stop was 10 years ago, or to never do it. But the second best time to stop is now. If you're eating 3 desserts today, cut back to 2. If you're drinking regular Coke or Pepsi, cut back to diet or cut back. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be all or nothing. I'm not a cold turkey kind of person myself. So some of these things I've had to do gradually. It's time to start some good habits. What are good habits? Exercise, eating right, drinking lots of water. Exercise, you need cardio for health, but after the age of 35, you start losing muscle. And every year that you lose muscle, if you're not actively doing things to gain muscle, you will lose them. And so weight training becomes all the more important as you age, and heavy weights as well is what I'm hearing. It can be the difference from, do you want to not be able to get up out of a chair or have help? Do you want to use a walker or a wheelchair? Do you want, instead of avoiding the stairs, purposely do the stairs? I know someone who has stairs in her house still, purposely do the stairs. Okay, so I know someone, she will walk down the stairs and say hello to the person that lives downstairs just to get in her stairs. And sometimes it is hard to find the time to exercise if you're busy. I used to work at a place where I was on the fourth floor, and I would purposely do the stairs. I never ever took the elevator. And this time in my life, I didn't have time to exercise. Now, if you have kids, especially little kids, and work a full-time job, I believe you when you tell me you don't have time to exercise. If you're retired, your kids are out of the house, if you watch 4 hours of TV a night, I don't believe you. If you watch 4 hours of TV a night, 3 hours, 2 hours, you can take 30 minutes and exercise a day, okay? All right. Financially, it's time to start. Actually, the time to start saving for retirement was in your 20s, but if you didn't do that, start now. Now, better late than never. Now is good forever. Get out of debt. Time to do all of those things. Social and a purpose. Now, actually, one of the reasons, and I had many reasons, for getting into teaching as a second career is because I wanted purpose. And I am a Christian, so I do believe we have purpose in Christ. But you spend more time at your job, especially if you work full time, than anything else. I wanted something where what I was getting paid for had purpose. Kill two birds with one stone. Purpose with your job. But some of you don't have jobs where you feel purposeful, and you can get that in other ways. But find friends, stay social. I feel like now is so easy with internet to be social. I can't believe I've met friends on YouTube. People that don't do YouTube or aren't into YouTube think that's weird and crazy. But even I know someone who's going to move in a few months to Florida, and I told her, get on the Facebook groups now. I even helped her find one. Like, look for people and things that you have in common and get on now. Start seeing their posts and get to know people, and then you can meet up in person. When I was a stay-at-home mom, there were online groups where we also met in person. So I feel like now is so easy. Sometimes there's a stigma to this, but I've only seen good examples. I know people who live in 55 plus communities, and that helps with the social. They live near people that are in their same stage of life, and they have people to do things with if you're retired. And I know someone else who lives in another one has the social. And we have a family member that just recently went into assisted living, and she did not want to move in. She fought it tooth and nail, but now that she's there, she's so happy, and she has the social. She has people to talk. Another thing, if you are retired and you could get a part-time job, because obviously you don't want to work full-time if you're retired, but it just is something to do. You could volunteer. I have a really good family member that kept volunteering up until she physically couldn't do it anymore, but she had moved closer to her daughter, but she would still drive an hour to her old neighborhood to volunteer where she used to live. Another thing you need to do is challenge your mind. I know someone who literally died, and I don't mean like this person's actually still alive. I mean figuratively die. When she retired, she just sat on the couch, stopped exercising, doing everything, stopped socializing, stopped doing everything, but also stopped reading books and stimulating her mind. And your mind is like it's like your physical body needs exercise to keep your mind sharp. You need to exercise your mind. So, read books. Assisted living is huge right in America. Yes. And there are good ones and bad ones. And I think the reason that this person was so against going into assisted living is because she'd seen some bad examples of assisted living places where her older relatives had gone. But I fell in love with this place when I saw it, and I knew she would love it once she got in. And she does. Read books. I commute, so I listen to a lot of audiobooks, and I do a lot of driving in my area. I used to think that was cheating and not really reading, but you learn just as much from reading an audiobook as you do from reading a book. And I usually have both. I have a book that I can read like on a vacation or when I'm sitting in a doctor's office, and an audiobook that I'm always listening to. And occasionally on this channel, I pop on once in a while and tell you about what I'm reading, which I've got 2 books I'm reading, an audiobook and a regular reading book. When I'm done with them, I'm going to do that. I think that's the issue, Kelly. No matter how old, we need to keep moving. Yes. I talked about that at the very beginning. I don't want to repeat myself, but go back and watch my beginning where I talked about good habits and bad habits, and that involved moving. And keep our minds sharp. Mom is 80 plus and still keeps active. That is wonderful. I feel like, okay, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. I have one relative I'm thinking of, she's not very active, and I try to encourage it, but I can't make her. I'm always like, hey, why don't you, I know walking's hard for you, but why don't you walk a little farther each day? You know, just do a little bit. And every day, every time I see her, I try to ask her, have you been walking more? No, I should. It's like, you can't make people. So we're all only in control of ourselves. So that's why I'm vowing this is what I'm going to do. And I'm trying to get this out to my YouTube audience. So I hope I encourage you. Learn a new language. Actually, I know someone who's doing this right now. She has a private tutor and she does Duolingo. This person also is in her 80s and travels. She just went to India. She does Zumba. She's one of the good examples. So she's traveling, doing Zumba at 80 years old. So it can be done. And basically, once you stop doing something is when you lose the ability. I know someone specifically that she had a chairlift because her husband, he had broken his hip. And she's like, and somebody said to her, don't use the chairlift because once you stop doing the stairs, you won't be able to do them again. She's like, oh, I'm just going to use them for groceries. She didn't just use them for groceries. And guess what? She did lose her ability to do the stairs. Mark my word, when I'm 80, when I'm 90, if I live beyond that, I will be doing the stairs without help. I mean, unless something happens beyond your control, like a car accident, but as long as I can help it. Yes, true. I knew 6 languages. Wow. Us here in the US, most of us barely know any beyond 1, but people who live in other countries always know more languages. Always. You guys are so much better about that. And I thought I can't pick up another language, but I pushed myself and picked up Italian. That's great. For a while, I was trying to learn Spanish. I've got busy and fell off with that. But yes, let's do it. Yes. Puzzles are really, really good. This one person, we're trying to encourage her to do puzzles. My daughter loves to do puzzles. It's like her hobby. I did that a lot with her when she was little, and it became her hobby. She always has a puzzle going in her room. Hobbies. That comes to my next one. Hobbies of all kinds are good to stimulate your mind. I consider YouTube a hobby. I haven't received my first check, but it keeps me learning new technology, learning new things. But whether your hobby is like some of these other things we mentioned could be hobbies, like reading books, doing puzzles, learning a new language. Those are all hobbies, especially Duolingo. Duolingo to me is fun. My daughter doesn't like that one. But hobbies, and hobby could be working out. Some people, that is their hobby, which I get it. Like, I enjoy working out once I get into it. Getting into it is hard. But whether your hobby is knitting, crocheting, I don't know. There's so many different hobbies people could do. Yeah, hobbies of all kinds. You could also do a side business, just for fun, especially if you're retired and you don't have to worry anymore. You could do it just for fun, but it could keep you up with technology. I feel like someone I know who is up in age, but and they have problems in some of these other areas, but they have a real estate business, and that has kept them, I wouldn't say they're totally up on technology, but more up on technology than other people their age, maybe because they've had to learn how to, you know, send pictures online, or, you know, set up, not a website, but maybe set up a Airbnb website. Card games. I know someone who lives in a 55 plus community, and she is a hot commodity at bridge. Like, everyone wants to be on her bridge team. And yeah, and I'm proud of her for that. I'm proud of her for keeping up. And bridge is a tougher card game, if you don't know. So those are all things. So I hope to inspire someone by today's to keep up in all of these areas, in habits, financially, social, and a purpose, and in challenging your mind. Keep doing all these things and don't give up from midlife for till the rest of your life. Because even if you live a long time, you want to live a good long time, right? You don't want to live a time where you can't do stairs, where you can't, where you're forgetting everything, you know? I hope I inspired and encouraged people to keep going, not give up on life, and how to live the rest of your life. Bye, guys. Bye, Zed and Nicola, and anyone who watches this later. See you next time.